Okay, we're looking at lesson 2-1, solving one-step equations. And we're going to start off by looking at the essential understanding. Equivalent equations are equations that have the same solutions. You can find the solution of a one-step equation using the properties of equality and inverse operations to write a simpler equivalent equation. So addition and subtraction properties of equality. Addition property of equality. Adding the same number to each side of an equation produces an equivalent equation. For example, for any real number a, b, and c, if a equals b, then a plus b equals b plus c. Here's an example. X minus 3, if I want to get rid of this 3, if I add 3 here to 3 here, I'm going to get the equivalent equation. Subtraction properties of equality. Subtracting the same number from each side of an equation produces an equivalent equation. For any real numbers a, b, and c, if a equals b, then a minus c equals b minus c. So here's an example. If I have x plus 3 equals 2, if I subtract 3 from both sides, I get the exact same equation. So to solve an equation, you must isolate the variable. Isolate means to get it alone. To do this, you do this by getting the variable with a coefficient of 1 alone on one side of the equation. You can isolate a variable using the properties of equality and inverse operations. An inverse operation undoes another operation. For example, subtraction is the inverse of addition. When you solve an equation, use inverse operations you perform, you should produce a simpler equivalent equation. So solving an equation using subtraction. So if I have x plus 13 equals to 27, if I want to get this to be the same equation, I'm going to take this, going to do the inverse operation of 13 of adding 13. I'm going to subtract 13. And I'm going to also subtract from the other side by using that subtraction property of equality. So that means that I am getting the exact same thing or making it the exact same thing on the other side. So when I subtract 13 from both sides, I get x equals 14. And so we can check it out. So if I put in 14 for my x, 14 plus 13 equals 27. So it checks out. Let's take a look and do one on our own. Let's try the got it. Y plus 2 equals negative 6. So here I have it. I'm going to subtract. I'm going to do the inverse operation of adding 2. And I'm going to subtract 2 because I want to get my y isolated by itself. So 2 minus 2 is 0, so it crosses out, and I just bring this y down. I get y equals 6 minus 2. Minus 6 minus 2 is negative 8. So I can check my answer. So if I put negative 8 plus 2, negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. So it checks out. So then it says in problem 1, why does subtracting 13 from both sides of the original equation result in an equivalent equation? It results in an equivalent equation because I'm doing whatever I did to one side, I'm doing to the other. So it's almost like I'm canceling out the subtraction. So I am doing an inverse operation and I am doing whatever I do to one side to the other. So my equation is balanced. It's the exact same. I hope that this helps.